Hello, Irish fans, as well as a few Ohio State Buckeye fans, I imagine. Welcome to Dome and Domer. My name is Mike Brammer. Joining me tonight, Ed Jordanik, as always. And Ed, if the liquor store owners are right about this, it's the biggest game since 2005, which is the USC home game. They haven't seen sales since then. So, but
And
that tells you pretty much everything. But clearly, Ed, I mean, I think that the reality of the matter is that everybody feels different about this
we
game.
know it's Notre Dame fans that are hitting the liquor stores because Ohio State fans, I'm sure, are bringing their own moonshine from their outhouses.
Exactly. Yeah, so there's a different feel to this game though, and there's a lot of excitement on the Notre Dame side that's different. And I think if anything, any of the Ohio State fans that are watching this YouTube video, they'll trying to figure out, all right, does Notre Dame really think they have a chance? Well, yeah, that we do. For some reason, it feels different this year. And certain whether or not we win the football game, I don't know. Ohio State's got more NFL prospects than we do by
Oh
far.
gosh, oh gosh.
I mean, it's not really close. However, as a team, as a unit, this Notre Dame team is kind of clicking on all cylinders, and it's kind of rare this early in the season for that to be the case in years past.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that, like, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there's there's vulnerability there on the Ohio State side. They've gotten pretty housed by Michigan 2 years in a row. I don't think they were in the playoff the last 2 years, right? Or were they? No, I don't think they
No,
were.
they got knocked out.
Right. So, part of this is Notre Dame, playing well, Sam Hartman, yada yada. But part of it is that Ohio State has not been dominant for a little bit. Ryan Day. I mean, if you read some of these, posts and some of the comments on these articles and stuff, the Ohio State fan always says that stuff like, "Oh, thanks for keeping Marcus Freeman warm for us," and thanks for thanks for giving him his apprenticeship before he comes home, and this kind of stuff. So
Right.
they obviously aren't in love with their head football coach, and I think that there's going to be, and part of this is that he hasn't had the kind of success that they're used to the last couple of years, and they're understandably have a high standard because they have been such a successful program dating back to Urban Meyer and et cetera, et cetera. So I think part of this is definitely Notre Dame appears to be more ready for this game than they have been for some of their bigger games. But also, it's Ohio State seems a little bit more vulnerable than they have been in the past.
I think that's totally true, and I also think that from a Notre Dame perspective, certain matchups we kind of like. We kind of feel like Morrison on Harrison. You got about the best defensive back we've had in a long time matching up with their best wide receiver. We're not going to hold him to no receptions. That's not going to happen. But I also don't think he's going to have 12 receptions, for 180 yards.
Well, I hope he has 12 receptions for 68 yards. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
That's the thing is that, like, they throw him the ball as much as they want, but if you can keep him contained from, sort of lots of yards after the catch, or just blowing by people, and catching, big, long post patterns and, long fly pattern. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I don't care how much he catches the ball. It's really just sort of containing.
It's the containment on that, but also the experience we have at safety is kind of a good matchup for us as well. We don't have a bunch of inexperience back there. We don't have guys that you think are going to give up that big, huge play.
Right.
If there's one thing that we have seen over the first few games for Notre Dame is that everybody seems to be holding true to their responsibilities on each play. Now, I realize that we gave up some tackles against Central Michigan. We kind of had a couple of whiffs here and there. Guys, did move the football on us, but in the big key moments, we were there. We were responsible. We had our gaps. Nobody was beating us deep. And I think as long as we can, and look, JD Bertrand being out, I don't care what anybody says, that had an impact. That had a huge impact.
Sure.
And having him back is going to be critical for us. So in a weird sort of way, I don't think what you saw Saturday with us missed tackles and so forth is what you're going to see this Saturday
Yeah.
mostly because Bertrand's back, and he's a
Yeah.
guy that doesn't miss a lot of his assignments.
I'd
Um,
like to. I kind of tend to think that Bertrand, Evans, and DJ Brown like probably could have played last weekend. Right.
Probably, yeah,
In other words, and they made a decision, to sort of say, okay, we're not gonna sort of um, risk, these guys, which are important on, in their positions, they're experienced guys. The other thing I got to say is that um, apparently, this other, receiver for Ohio State, if you read some of the stuff, he's just as good, or perhaps potentially long term
yeah,
better than Harrison. Yeah,
yeah,
I want to say Mbikwe or Ember. I can't remember his name.
yeah,
But so I think, to me, you remember last year's game, we kind of got caught in a situation where, Jaden Mickey got left on,
yeah,
I
yep,
can't, was it Olave or whoever, one of their
yep.
studs, and that cost
Olave,
us.
yeah,
Olave, sorry, yeah. And so to me, as important as it is for to contain those guys, what we really, they have two really, really high end guys. Cam Hart has been, I would say, solid this year, but not spectacular. He needs to
right,
play his best game of his life,
yep,
uh, and Golden has to figure out a way to not get into a matchup issue where, one of their top two guys is being guarded by Mickey or Christian Gray or
yep,
Clarence Lewis, or or
yep,
if it happens really rarely because, maybe zone or something. But I just don't think those guys. We have two cornerbacks who can match up man to man with that quality of receiver,
right,
um, and have a chance. I'm not saying that they can dominate them. I'm just saying that they can. They have what it takes to sort of stay with them. But you just can't get into a situation where you get mixed up, and then you've got one of
yeah,
those guys one on one with one of our safeties or with
yeah. It's e- every time you face a game like this, there's always a couple things that kind of jump out at you as to, all right, these are going to be the key matchups, or these are going to be the key things to look for in terms of whether this translates into success or not. And one of them for sure is going to be, can we find a way to get pressure on their quarterback? Because we haven't been getting it with just the defensive line rushing for. It's just not happening. So we're not going to expect to get any kind of a pressure if we're not bringing something, whether it be Bertrand or one of the cornerbacks. Somehow we're going to have to mix it up to get some pressure on them so that we can get into some third and longs and so forth. And I think that's going to be a real big, huge key, because if we don't accomplish that, we're going to be in some big trouble in terms of keeping them and points off the board to keep the game close enough for us. Now, on the flip side of that, the other positive thing we have going for us is Sam Hardman, in that we finally have somebody who's experienced, somebody that can put the ball. If I didn't have any time to do any videos, but if I would have, I probably would have thrown those 3 touchdown passes that he threw in stride perfectly, where our guys didn't miss a beat in terms of the speed. That, I mean, that ball was right smack where it needed to be, and let alone one, seeing that once in the previous years with our quarterbacks, as opposed to 3 times in the same game. That again is going to be another key matchup. Is Hartman continuing to click like he has been these 4 games?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I kind of disagree with you a little bit in that, like, I would rather have sort of an overall defensive game plan that's focused on stopping the run, and then on obvious passing downs, sort of use the blitz very selectively, if at all. I'd rather sort of, flood the zone with pass defenders, and sort of, play a containment sort of, kind of like
Well,
a.
we haven't done that up to now. We've been
I know.
coming.
No, exactly. I know. That's why I'm concerned, because it's the big play that really concerns me. And I'm kind of like, to me, this is kind of a Lou Holtz sort of Bob
Yeah,
Diaco
bend but
kind of
don't
game,
break.
where
Yeah,
you give up a lot of yards between the 20s, but you're really, really stingy in the red zone.
yeah.
And to me, the way that you sort of get behind the 8 ball against, against Ohio State, is that, if you sort of, it, get into a shootout with them,
Yeah.
and you just let Harrison and the other guy just kind of run wild, and you give confidence to this young quarterback, right?
Yep.
You need to sort of give him sort of, you need to get him frustrated. You need to get him to make a mistake, I think, to win the game. You have to sort of make him sort of get confused, by different coverages and different things. So to me, that sort of points towards a little bit of a conservative game when it comes just to the using the blitz. I just, because, like, you're right, we have not gotten to the quarterback with 3 or 4 down linemen, but we haven't really gotten to the quarterback with the blitz either. I mean,
No.
we
Yeah.
created hurries, which is good.
Yep. Yep.
You don't have to get the guy on the ground for blitzes to be successful. Um, but yeah, so I'm a little bit, and then to me, like, the other way you win this game is it's we always analyze these games to death, but at the end of the day, running the ball, stopping the run, and winning the turnover
Yeah.
battle almost
Yeah.
always wins the game.
Yep. Yeah, I think if for me, if I were to look at what's a key stat that I think is going to be an indicator of us winning the football game, I would say 150 yards rushing. You get to
Yeah,
150 yards rushing, I don't see how Ohio State keeps us off the scoreboard. Not with a guy like Hartman. If you got 150 yards rushing, that means that you're taking a ton of pressure off of Hartman and you're not making it put them all on his shoulders. And a guy like that, I just think he's going to be able to execute an environment where he's got 150 yards behind him and rushing. So
right.
that'll be a key stat for me, if we can get to that. I do think Hartman's going to continue with his poise. I think he's going to make the right kind of decisions. I think he's going to be over 50% completion. But games like this, they come down to those big plays. And I do think that why fans are a little bit different about this year than in years past is because we do have guys that can make plays. We got playmakers, and that's not always been the case.
Right.
And anytime you got playmakers, all it takes are 2 or 3 of those plays
Right.
that change the complexion of the game.
Right.
Like you said last year, Oman Alave, without that touchdown, that game was in doubt for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and it could have gone either way, and that's not with a guy like Hartman behind
Right.
us.
Right. And I think that, playing Ohio State in our 5th week, as opposed to
Yeah,
the first
exactly.
week,
Yep,
it's key for us because, Tyree has gotten
yep,
comfortable in a new position and has proven to be a playmaker. Stays has gotten
yep,
comfortable and that kind of confidence of scoring touchdowns in a position where you really haven't logged that many minutes as a starter. Hartman kind of getting comfortable with some of these guys. Even last week, Merriweather catching a bomb and kind
yep,
of coming out of his shell a little bit. All those things I think really, really help, as opposed to last year where, it was Tyler Buckner, kind of rolling out there for the first time
yep.
ever. The other thing is that, I'm sitting here watching. I've got the Giants and 49ers game on, and the Niners just had a touchdown drive, and man, the Giants brought the heat a couple times, and Purdy just made perfect throws. One
Yeah,
to Kittle on the
yep,
sideline, and just now for a touchdown to this guy Ronnie Bell, who I think went to Michigan. But just guys in his space, and he just laid it right in there. I mean,
yeah,
and that's the kind of thing that where Hartman can really make a difference, right? Where
yep.
they bring pressure, but he
If
still
they
delivers
right,
the ball to the right spot.
Hartman's going to throw to the right guy. He's smart enough to know who's the matchup he's going to, and he's even in the zone coverage. I think he's done a really good job of it. You
Right,
saw it in that touchdown pass that he threw right into a tight window. Uh, and I just think Hartman's that kind of guy where if you are going to bring the house and you're going to leave somebody open, he's likely going to find that guy. I mean, he's
right,
proven it so far. And I
right.
think that's the big, huge difference this year that we've not had. A guy
Yeah,
like Buckner, he's not going to see that. There's no
yeah,
way.
yeah.
He's way too young, way too inexperienced.
Too
You're
deliberate.
just not going to see those big opportunities.
Yep.
And that's what's different about this year, I think. Not to say that we should be expecting to win. I mean, I don't even know what the line is. What is the line?
I don't know. I think Notre Dame is
Is
plus
it
3.
Ohio State? Oh, it is +3.
I think Ohio
I knew it
State's
was a three
by
point, but I
3.
didn't know if it was Ohio State or Notre Dame.
It's
Um,
Ohio State. Yeah, I haven't seen Notre Dame
I think it's
favorite.
Ohio State, yeah. But yeah, look, I mean, I think at the end of the day, this game could go either way. turnovers obviously is going to be a big thing. Some of those big plays, whoever makes those big plays in the big moments, that's typically how these games go. Um, but I do think that Notre Dame might get down like 10 points for the first time. And that's going to be a real key moment to see how poised is this football team. Do they not get rattled by that? Do they stick to the game plan? Do they stick to the, hey, it's one play at a time? It's
Right.
not, I mean, that all of those things come into play, and that's where coaching really kicks in.
Yeah.
And so far this year, it seems like Marcus has been hitting on all cylinders himself in terms of where the team is as a team, as a cohesive unit. They're pretty solid at this moment. So I do think that we're capable of handling that adversity if it does come our way early in the first half.
Well, we had some second half game pressure, against North Carolina State, and responded well
Yeah,
to it. They were
yeah.
with the score,
I
and
mean, it's
Ohio State,
24-17 in the beginning of the fourth quarter.
right? And Ohio State has not had that yet. They just
No,
haven't. I mean, they struggled a little bit against Indiana, but then pulled away pretty quickly. And then, as far as I can remember, they have not had that sort of game pressure in the second half. Um, Certainly not in the fourth quarter.
no, not in
Um,
the fourth quarter. They might have been within 7 points after the first half of.
Indiana.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah, I'm trying to think who else did they play. They played Youngstown State, which of course wasn't much of a game, and then I think they played one less game than us.
Yeah.
And then they blew somebody out last week. I can't remember who, but anyways, it's they're improving too. They're finding their way with this new quarterback. There's a great write up in the Athletic by this guy named Nick Baumgartner talking about Ohio State. Who started the season with some kind of, I think it was sort of one-on-one blocking, or I can't remember, and it just wasn't working, and they switched to more zone blocking, and the running game has really picked up over the last couple of weeks, and you could tell the difference. So it's I think it'll be a better football game than last year's, just because both teams have
Yeah.
played. You know,
Yep. There'll be a
Regardless of,
ton of plays. Yeah.
yeah,
I definitely think there's going to be a lot of big plays, a lot of big moments. Just a fun game to watch for sure. I think you're going
I
to
think
see
so
some.
too. Yeah,
I think there's going to be some back and forth. I hate to bring this up, but it's going to rear its ugly head come game time, and that is the big huge question of what percentage of the crowd is red versus green. and
yeah,
it's one of those weird things at Notre Dame because we just don't have that kind of a town where the entire town is bought into college football. I mean, there's a ton of Notre Dame fans. Don't get me wrong in South Bend, but just the dynamics of the way that ticket holders are, it lends itself to, oh, you know what? I'm going to let my buddy from so and so go to this game. I'll sell the ticket, cover my costs for the entire season, and I'll go to all the other games. That's
right.
the kind of stuff that happens to us. And I expect my gut instinct is it might be 25% red, maybe even 30.
I'd be kind of surprised, with that, just because, they've they've made significant efforts, and also I think that, you got to remember, that I think there's just a little bit more. Um, I'm gonna call this. I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna call this a little bit of the Brian Kelly effect. Um, I think sometimes fans sort of reflect a little bit. Their passion runs as deep as they feel that they're, as that. But I think that people are just a little bit more, bought in, because of the way Marcus Freeman carries himself, the way he obviously gets Notre Dame, the way he sort of is all in. I think,
Yeah.
part of the problem with Brian Kelly is as good as he is a football coach and all that he did for Notre Dame. Notre Dame fans really never accepted him as one of their own, because they just
No,
never felt he was all in. That there
no,
was a
I
little
agree.
bit of a,
Yeah, I
right. That
agree. Yeah,
he was always looking around the next corner. That he, and so
yeah,
I think that sort of reflected in a couple of those games where they were just more likely to, kind of not have that, Holtzian type passion for being there no matter what. They had to be in the stadium for this game. It was kind of like, okay, if I could get $600 for this ticket, then that's pretty awesome. And then I'll stay
Yeah.
home and watch it, because it's not like I don't have to be there, because I don't know if I'm making any sense, but it just seems like there's a
No,
little bit
I think
different,
there's some truth to that.
little bit of a
Well,
different
I mean, we'll
vibe.
obviously find out come game time. I just,
Sure.
look, I think Ohio State, with the fan base that they got, there's going to be a lot of people that would like to come to Notre Dame to experience that, to go to a game. It's not too far. Columbus is a drive.
Right.
So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how that shakes out. I do agree with you, though. I do think that there's a lot of people that are really dialed into Marcus Freeman and where he's at, and just the recruiting. I mean, Notre Dame picked up two big, huge recruits this week,
Yeah.
and you couldn't have gone. I mean, you couldn't have asked for anything better in terms of this week and leading up to the game with regards to that. I mean, those are some big time recruits they just got. Deuce Knight and the offensive tackle. I mean,
Ledford.
that's.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's
I mean,
great.
Knight's it's a big, huge get. That was a little surprising to me. I wasn't expecting that. I thought I had heard he was leaning to either Tennessee or Mississippi. I can't remember which one, but in any event, a huge get for the program going into this weekend, as well as they got a bunch of major players coming up here for this weekend. It's going to
Yeah.
huge recruiting weekend.
Yeah. I mean, well, that it's great, but I mean, I'm really focused on the game, because as I told somebody this week, you know, um, until Deuce Knight is sitting in his first theology class and eating his first chicken patty in the
Yeah,
North
that's right.
Dining
The
Hall.
commitments these days don't matter. That's
Listen,
Peyton Bowen, that one.
in the NIL age, it's even more, especially with
Yeah, it's crazy.
quarterbacks, especially
Yeah,
with quarterbacks. And
yeah.
I mean, I read the write up on him. He sounds like he's a work in progress. It sounds like
Yeah.
it doesn't
He's got some
play.
raw talent. I mean, there's some still
Oh,
polishing
sure,
off he needs to do.
sure.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
doesn't have all of the the specific qualities you want in a quarterback, but he's got raw talent that's just legit.
yeah,
And so with the right kind of coaching, the right kind of, but yeah, you're right. It's the game. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting to divert away from this recruiting, because I think everything is all about this game. I think we do learn a whole heck of a lot this Saturday. I mean, we are going to find out for sure how legitimately good is Notre Dame, and how do they respond in a big moment in a big game like this. And I do think that the opportunity is there for them to win this football game, much more so than it was last year, and much more so than it's been, quite honestly, in the last several years.
yeah.
I don't know when we faced a top 10 opponent that's ranked that we felt this good about it going into the game. It's been quite a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, the people in the stadium have a job to do. We got to make that place. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not a crazy, environment, given, some of the standards, but, it can be, we've got to bring it, for those of you out there that are going to be there. It's got to be as nuts as we can make it. Hopefully they'll do a good job with this green stuff and these fans and the
Yeah.
the boards and all that kind of, the jumbotron, everything. It's hopefully it's choreographed real well, because I do think that, Ohio State is a little bit psychologically vulnerable. I mean, they've gotten their
Yeah.
ass kicked a few times, and if it's the start of the fourth quarter and they're on the ropes a little bit, especially with a young quarterback, that's when, we saw this last year with Clemson, right?
Yep. Yep.
The kid comes in and, throws a pick six, and
Yep.
throws, that, and so that is the kind of game. I'm not saying we're going to win 35-13. I'm just saying that you got to get into a position, where they feel game pressure, because I think that's when a guy like Hartman really matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. You give them that just a little bit of an inch, and all of a sudden you're up 2 scores, and the
Right.
whole complexion of the game changes.
Right.
Totally changes. And a guy like Hartman up 2 scores, you're not going to see him making big, huge mistakes. He's not that kind of guy.
It
So
doesn't seem like it. Yeah.
yeah,
Doesn't
it
seem like
really, I think the other last point I'll make is that, for me, what's going to be really fascinating is to find out after the game if Marcus Freeman again makes references to in-game adjustments that they made,
Right.
because he's made a couple comments, I think on 2 occasions after that. Hey man, we saw some stuff that we did not see on film. It took us a couple series to flush that out. Once we figured it out, we made an adjustment that seemed to work. We get into halftime. Halftime, you're always making adjustments, right? But I think that more than anything is also what has me excited about this program, is it seems to be that the coaching staff is there. He got the right pieces, the right parts. They seem to be clicking as a coaching staff.
Right.
And, we're going to probably see some of that come Saturday night as well.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I mean, I also got to believe that, Ohio State's going to see some things that they haven't seen on film from us.
Yeah. Yeah.
When
I got to
we,
believe we've been holding back something, right? At
yeah,
least a few
yeah,
things. Yeah.
right. Exactly. Exactly. And, I like the fact that Brown and Evans and Bertrand all seem like they're, going to be ready to go, healthy and all good. They're experienced guys.
Yeah.
So,
I think Rubio's back too, isn't he?
he may be. Yeah, I thought he was
Yeah.
sort of
I
the one
think
that was
I think
iffy.
he is. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I think he practiced this week.
okay, well, good. I mean,
Yeah.
that's you got to be shuttling guys in and out because that's going to
Yeah.
be, they are, like you said, they have, regardless of how well they're going to play, they've got a ton of talent. They're incredibly athletic. Up and down. They've got third stringers that
Yeah.
could start at most Power Five schools. So, um, so you gotta play every play as if it's your last, and you gotta do your be assignment correct and really sort of execute, because I think the better coach team,
Yeah.
will
Well,
probably
I
will win.
think that's who wins this game. I agree.
Yeah.
It's going to come down to that. The better coach team is going to win this football game. And look, lots going to happen. I mean, this is the kind of game that you love seeing because it's college football. This is why it's so much fun to watch it. There's just so many unexpected things that happen during a
Right.
game. The ball bounces just even a little bit your way, and it just changes everything.
Yeah.
So
No,
it's going to
it's
be a
one of
lot of
those.
fun to watch.
It will. It's one of those games where I'm going to go and I'm going to get home and I'm probably going to be up till 2:30 in the morning watching it again. I mean, I hope I'm watching it again because I'm
Yeah,
happy.
yeah. If you're not watching it again, that's probably a pretty bad sign.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But
Yeah.
yeah, but
Well,
it'll be
look, it's going to be interesting. Coffee texted me. He's predicting Notre Dame 35-27.
okay.
So that kind of matches what I think is important, which is we got to score. We have to score in the 30s
Right.
minimum.
Right.
The big huge question is, all right, what happens to Ohio State? So what's your gut instinct? What are you thinking?
I'm actually going to pick Notre Dame to win 30-18.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
I just kind of feel like
Well, you're
that.
confirming that it feels different. This is just a different year, man. It just
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, no, I just kind of have a feeling that, it's when I think about the way that we played Clemson at home last year, against a talented team, a little bit analogous to this Ohio State team in the sense that, talent at the skill positions, but a quarterback situation that was a little bit unsettled or a little bit new. And in terms of bringing in Klubnik and so I don't know, I just kind of have a feeling that we're going to that we're going to sort of not dominate the line of scrimmage, but sort of have a
But
game
control
where
it, maybe.
we
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
enough. Yeah, we do enough.
Yeah. 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 I think it's going to be a tight football game. I think 38-35. And I do think Schrader might boot one in the fourth quarter to put us up 3.
Yeah.
He's got a heck of a leg. That's a huge asset to have. When you're 50 and on in, it's an automatic attempt.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case. That's a huge, it's just one of the intangibles this football team has
Right.
that just seems to be clicking. And I know that he's 1 for 2 for whatever,
Right.
but almost every single one has been a long attempt.
Right.
And but he clearly has a big, huge leg. There's no doubt about it. That's a huge asset to have, by
No,
the
I
way.
think it's it's definitely is something that could get you some points on the board that you might otherwise not. And it's supposed to be a very supposed to be a very nice night.
Yeah, it's
Real
going to be
mild
perfect.
mild temperatures.
Yeah.
Not much wind. Just a really good night for football. So all that stuff is kind of it's lining up to be a Notre Dame moment, as
Yeah.
Dick used
Yeah.
to
That's
say.
going to be great.
We'll see if we
I'm
get
looking
it.
forward to it. I think it's going to be a great football game. Hopefully we come out with a win. And it looks like we definitely have a chance, but boy, it's going to be a lot of fun. That game's going to be a great one to be at. All
All
right. Good deal. We'll leave it there.
right.
You've been listening to Dome and Domer, an online conversation about Notre Dame sports from a fan's perspective. For Ed Jordanik, I'm Mike Breimer. Thanks for listening.